Hello, I'm here today with Emma and Stuart from WithOtto, and we're going to be talking about how to automate your bank reconciliation and go from tedious to effortless. Say hello, Emma and Stuart.
Hi,
Hello.
Simon.
Hello, and I can't wait to get started. Without further ado, you're not here to listen to me. I am going to introduce you to Emma James, and Emma's going to show you how to go from tedious to effortless with the a bank automation. And Stuart's here with Emma as well. So I'm going to give you a virtual round of applause and disappear and watch with eager anticipation. Go! Bye-bye!
Thanks, everyone. So for those of you who don't know me, as well as being co-founder of WithOtto, which is a bank reconciliation tool, I also run a practice called the Number Ninja, and we've been going for about nine years with that. If you can share slides, please, Stuart. So today, this webinar is going to be in kind of two parts. So I will be talking about automating your bookkeeping, using tools that we already have, trying to get the most out of those, and why we should be looking at automating things like bank reconciliation. And then Stuart will go through Otto itself, what it does, how it works, how it can help you. So with bookkeeping automation, thank you. With bookkeeping automation, we all know how important good bookkeeping is to what we do, but we also know that it's not always valued as it should be by clients, and it can be tedious and repetitive. We're also being asked to do more and more, it seems, and with things like MTD for income tax coming, it's becoming ever more important to have good, accurate, on-time bookkeeping and having good processes that support us in being able to deliver that. So we're going to have a look at a few things that we can do to automate parts of the process. It's not always about adding new tools. It's also about getting the most out of what we already have. And my aim for this morning is that everyone will leave with at least one action that they can take to automate part of that process. It's worth mentioning that I'm going to mainly be talking about Xero. We are a Xero only practice, and WithOtto is Xero only as well. But even if you use other bookkeeping software, a lot of what we're talking about, you'll be able to tweak a little bit and fit to whatever it is that you use. So why should we be looking at automating bank rec? So it can increase capacity and profitability. We now have a team in the practice, but when I first set up, it was only ever supposed to just be me, but I wanted to be able to make more money essentially and be able to service as many clients as I could. But I was just one person. I didn't want to work evenings, weekends, and all the hours. And so I brought in a lot of software to be my team members. And so if we can automate a lot of the more basic, straightforward day-to-day tasks, then we can be adding more clients. We can be making those services more profitable. It also improves accuracy. Humans are human, they make errors, and it can be quite difficult, particularly if you are doing quite repetitive tasks all day. It can be quite difficult to maintain good accuracy, with the best will in the world. It also improves job satisfaction. No one wants to just be sat there for 8 hours a day, if you're in Xero, clicking the OK button for bank rec. So it's about making it making roles is interesting, trying to give variety. I mean, it also means that for some of your team members, you might be able to move them onto more client-facing work quicker and have them building those relationships. So in our practice in Otto, we think of automation as building blocks or as a pyramid. And it's not about trying to automate everything at once. It's about adding things kind of like step by step. They build on each other. And before I take us through this pyramid, we're just going to put a poll up. I just want to know how many of you are using bank feeds with your clients. And so I've said zero, but yeah, it could be for any bookkeeping software. There was a report done by Xero earlier this year that said only 40% of bookkeepers and accountants were using bank feeds with their clients, which really surprised me. So yeah, I'm just interested to see how many of us here today are doing that. So I'll give that a few seconds to do. So yeah, I think bank feeds, not that you can't automate anything if you don't have bank feeds set up, but I think that is really going to help because obviously the statements are just going to be coming in every day and updating, and so there are lots of things that we're going to talk about like bank rules, and if you do use something like Otto, where that running every day. You're going to get more done, obviously, if the bank feeds are set up. So if we can, is that poll closed? Yeah. Okay, so that's excellent. So we've got 65% of people, so two-thirds, are using bank feeds with their clients. So that's excellent news. So yeah, so bank feeds on this pyramid, but that's kind of like the very, very base, the foundations, if you like. I was trying to think what's under a pyramid, the foundations of that. So yeah, if we then move on to kind of like the next step, and we have another poll here, I think, for bank rules. So again, this is zero, but I know QuickBooks do rules, and I assume some of the other softwares have bank rules set up as well. These are really, really good for regular transactions where you don't need to see the bookkeeper, don't need to see the paperwork, sorry. So we use it a lot. We have quite a few e-commerce clients, so we use it a lot for things like Stripe fees, or for sales where invoices aren't issued. It's good for things like dividends, salary payments, VAT payments, all of that sort of thing. And bank rules are really helpful. They You can add like descriptions and tracking categories and have lots of different information in them that is just being added automatically when they meet certain criteria. At the end of this session, there is a QR code for you to download a PDF of a bank rule guide that we use. That gives you a bit of information about how to use them, and some ideas about how. I think with bank rules, what we found is once we started having a few, you're doing more and more and more because you're starting to see more things that you can be using. So I'd say most people aren't using bank rules. So yeah, 41% are saying they use them for most clients. I think, yeah, for the rest of you, I think that's probably one thing that you can take from today, I think, to go and have a look and see what you can set up for some clients. The zero version are, I guess, fairly basic, but they do run in the order that they are in the list. So because of that, you can kind of force a little bit of logic in with them by having like a certain rule a bit higher up. The key, I think, with them is making them specific enough. So they run on criteria. So it's making sure that you're setting those rules so you are only picking up what you actually want to pick up, but that it's not so restrictive that you're not picking up anything. So sometimes it's a little bit trial and error, and just really trying to work out what is going to work for each client. What we find works quite well in our practice is we have a naming convention for rules. So it is very easy for us to see in the list what bank it relates to and what the rule actually does. So we are quite descriptive with our rules. So that's kind of like the base, and how that will then work is when the rule matches something against the bank statement. Xero will say, we'll just bring up the OK box for you to do. So you're then cutting down some of the manual entry with that. And then kind of like the next step from this, where we have another poll, and then we have two questions actually for this next poll. While looking at receipt capture, so this might be things like Dext, Apron, Auto Entry, HubDoc, whatever you might be using, and making sure that I think most of us are probably using receipt capture of some description, but it's making sure that we're using it as much as we can. So rather than just having it where the client is uploading documents or emailing documents in, a lot of the tools have rules that we can set. So it might be, and I say a Google G Suite invoice. You always code that to exactly the same nominal. It's the same VAT treatment every single time. And so you can set rules in a lot of these tools so that you're not having to manually enter that. And what you're then doing is more of kind of like a sense check. So the information when the document is uploaded is automatically there, and you're just doing a quick little check to make sure that everything is correct. So yeah, most of us are using receipt capture tools. So that yeah, over 2/3. So that is excellent. Although there are still quite a few people aren't using it for all of their clients or for the majority of their clients. So again, I think particularly I think with things like MTD for income tax coming, I think getting as many people as possible onto receipt capture is going to be quite key, because then those documents are just coming in all of the time, basically, and they can just be being dealt with. And if we have supplier rules, that really cuts down a lot of time. And then kind of like adding onto that is most of these tools then have auto publish or whatever they might call it, where as soon as the document is coming into the as soon as the document's coming into the system, it's then the rules are being applied and then being automatically published into Xero or whatever bookkeeping software. And that is really helpful. It can also feel a bit scary at times, because the first time you're seeing a document is then when it's in Xero and you're ready to reconcile it. And that can feel a bit like we're losing control, I think, or certainly it did for me when we first started using auto publish. And it was definitely a mindset change for me, because I was fully aware that we had a lot of rules set up, and so the documents were coming in. All of the information was exactly how I wanted it, but I still wanted to just be having that final check, even though I wasn't changing anything. So I picked a few suppliers for certain clients. I was like, right, we're just going to auto publish these and start small and then start adding. I don't know if others use them, but we use Zen and Connect or Dex Precision or one of the other data checking tools. So there is always that additional check when it's in Xero to make sure that things are being done properly and as we want. So yeah, I think we have another question for a poll of just how many of the features in your receipt capture tool you're currently using. I think auto publish, I won't be surprised if not many people are using that. I think that is certainly from the people that we talk to, that is kind of like a feature that not many seem to be using. It's not something personally that I would turn on for every supplier, for every client, because there are things that you do just want to be checking. But I think we can use it a lot more than people are doing so at the moment. So we'll just let that run. So yeah, as I said before, with this pyramid, it's not that you have to do everything. I think picking and choosing what works best for your clients, what works best for your practice. But yeah, our view is that if you are, yeah, these build on top of each other, and the more that you can use, the more you're getting out of the tools you're already using, but the more you will get out of a tool such as Otto. So just wait for that poll to finish. Yeah, so 91% of people are using supply rules, which is excellent. And yeah, 68 are using auto publish, which is a lot higher than I thought it would be. So yeah, everyone's a lot keener to use auto publish than I was, I think. So yeah, so I'm going to hand over to Stuart in a moment. He's going to talk about Otto, and which is, as I say, is a bank reconciliation tool, and how that is kind of like this was the boss level of automation, if you like, and adds on to everything that we've just been talking about.
Emma, just before we go,
Yeah.
I've got some questions and some observations. I'm that the auto published thing at 68% on that poll. I think that's representative of our community, rather than the wider. Because I know when I'm talking to people out at conferences and whatnot, they some of them don't even know what auto publish is, let alone the ability is there. And I exactly your sentiment about turning it on and it happening without me seeing it, and the scariness about that.
Yeah.
But I very quickly, I mean, it's like I find it wonderful when I go in and it's not there and it's already done it in the background, and that dopamine rush of it actually have happened without me having to do anything. It sort of got me over that hill. But Emma's mentioned in her question, she's put, I find sometimes HubDoc posts credits as invoices and invoices as credits. We use auto entry, and auto entry does that occasionally as well. But I've narrowed it down over the top. It's one specific supplier, and I think it must be something about their invoice that means that auto entry posts it as a credit note. But do you find that in any of the software that you use?
So we use Apron, and it's not something I've found. I think every now and then I've noticed, yeah, there's been the odd invoice where the odd credit note where it's wanting to do it as a sales invoice rather than a credit note. But they are kind of yeah, they're the anomalies. So they're not the things that we would have auto publish on anyway. So they're kind of like the odd, very random supplier that you don't see very often. Or but yeah, it's not something that we come across particularly often. So yeah, we use April now. We previously used Dext, and I think both of those, certainly for the kind of the suppliers that our clients are using, which do tend to be more kind of like run of the mill standard suppliers, we didn't notice a particular issue with those.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And just to give the audience an idea, the best accountants that we're working with, or I'm working with regards to auto, but they're doing 90% plus over 90% on auto publish, and they have it as a KPI, or have had it as a KPI on their dashboard in order to get the team. So they've concentrated on the team, increasing the amount of invoices or the percentage of the invoices that were auto published. And as I say, they're up at the 90 and just over the 90. I think 92, if without going back to my notes, is the highest one that I've ever had a conversation with. So that's that. Jerry's asked, will WithOtto ever be available on QuickBooks Online in the future, or is it solely going to concentrate on Xero?
Do you want to answer this, Stuart, or me?
Yeah, so we did have a look into this within the last few months. So our original plan, I guess, was to kind of take over the world, even though we're Xero only. We know that people are using lots of different tools, and we get lots of requests for this. So what we found was the combination of the fact that QuickBooks already has quite good bank rules and has some automation, plus the fact that the information that is kind of shown that's on the bank statement wasn't as comprehensive as what is available in Xero, basically meant we weren't going to be able to offer the quality of product that we would want for QuickBooks, and just being able to reconcile bank rules wasn't going to be very compelling for QuickBooks users. So as it stands, we've had a look into it, but we're not going to be supporting QuickBooks at the moment. And it also kind of looks, I know somebody asked a question about this before during their registration. I think QuickBooks seems to be putting a lot of effort into streamlining lots of things, including bank rec, and so I think the tea leaves make it look like probably things are going to be improving from the QuickBooks side anyway. So I think most likely we wouldn't support QuickBooks going forward.
Excellent, thank you. And the last thing is an observation from me. A naming convention for bank rules sounds very techie, so I bet that was Stuart's idea back in the day. I've never dreamt of that, never thought of that. I think that's a really wonderful idea. And if you've got any, I don't know whether it's in the PDF that you can share or how that works, but I'd be interested in finding out more about how that works and what naming convention you have set up in order to help the team sort that out. So I love that. That's a brilliant thing. That's the one thing that
it's quite small as well, isn't it? It's like, it's not even a tech thing. It's just help to, because we see
it's common sense. It's obvious. But it's the sort of thing that a tech person would come up with rather than I think
the default's like it just uses the description or something, and it makes no sense at all.
Well,
so,
that's right. Yeah,
like
just
this.
name it anything because just use initials because it makes sense at the time, and then 3 weeks later it's got no sense at all. But anyway, I will bugger off and I'll let you get on.
Okie doke. So I guess Emma's gone through some of the kind of general things that I think apply to anything. But let's talk about WithOtto now. So the key things that Otto does is reconciling bank rules and reconciling those green matches or those find and match in Xero, where you've already published a bill or an invoice. So before we get anywhere, I don't know if this is going to work. This is a bit of a gamble from my point of view, but hopefully, a lot of people wonder what Otto looks like. Is it going to? Of course, there we go. Okay. So we'll wait. It'll be a bit blurry in a second. So the way Otto works is that he is invited to your practice as a member of staff. He will log into Xero and see the bank rec page as you would do. So Otto is basically programmed to do one task, which is go into the bank rec page, look at the things that can be reconciled, and using the kind of rules that we've set up, whether that's reconciling bank rules or whether that's reconciling the green matches, we'll go through and reconcile as many things as can be reconciled in that day. And then he repeats the thing every day. Every day is Groundhog Day for Otto. So he will go into your practice through every client that he has access to and just run through every single bank account, looking at everything that's to be reconciled and try to reconcile it. So that's not going to do anything more exciting than that. So I'm not going to show you that for 22 minutes. Okie doke. So as I mentioned, two things that Otto can reconcile in general. So the first one is bank rules, and about 80 to 85% of the reconciliations Otto performs are bank rules. So they're the foundation on that pyramid that Emma showed, and they are the things that are saving the most time. So I won't go into these in too much detail because Emma's talked about them, but the key thing from an Otto point of view is that if the OK button is there, he will reconcile it. So kind of going back to what Emma said before about making sure your rules are specific enough to only match what you want to, that's going to be a key thing if you're looking to automate this part of bank reconciliation, because Otto is not going to be able to tell if this rule should have been reconciled or skipped. The other thing to mention is that with Otto, we don't reconcile any of the times when Xero pre-populates to create boxes based on what you've entered before. So we speak to quite a few practices where they find that Xero is actually good at picking up the patterns of what should be entered in those boxes, and they normally just can click OK. Because we don't want to make mistakes, we don't reconcile those. So those would probably be good candidates to turn into bank rules if you're looking to automate your bank reconciliation in some way. So the kind of most interesting bit is reconciling those bills and invoices. So the reason that we built Otto in the first place was that we tried another bank rec bot and it wasn't able to deal with the differences between the information that's on the bank statement and what's on the bill and the invoice. And we discovered, we didn't really think of it before, we discovered that that's kind of quite a big thing for us. And we've got lots of, obviously Emma's talked about how we've optimized our way of publishing documents. And then once they're in Xero, we discover actually, what's written on the Amazon bill and what's on the bank statement are not the same. And that's true for lots and lots and lots of different suppliers. So we wanted to address this with Otto. So the way he works is that when he first gets access to a client, we download 12 months of historical reconciliations, and then Otto sent off to look for patterns in those historical reconciliations to try to understand what it was about those that meant that they should be reconciled. So it would be things like how similar are the supplier name, if there's any references that match. And obviously if they do, then that's great, but often they don't. So we're also looking at things, how long does it normally take between when the bill is issued and when it's paid? Are there any kind of patterns in the days of the week or the days of the month that we can use to kind of get an understanding of why those were the correct things to reconcile together? So as it says here, it helps to deal with inconsistencies between bank statements. Also means that we don't have to kind of train for particular suppliers or anything like that. Otto will pick up the patterns for each of your clients, so it's working with the kind of patterns that are unique to them. The next thing is, once we've done that, when Otto sees new things that can be reconciled, he will decide whether he thinks it's a match or not a match, and also how confident he is in his decision. So what that means is that we can allow him to reconcile things when he's confident that he's understood it and that that's the correct decision to match those things. But if he's uncertain, then we can leave that for a human to review. And then there's this process of retraining Otto every 2 weeks. So that's a combination of any historical or any reconciliations that have been recorded from the last time. Plus, you can also tell Otto whether something should have been reconciled or not. So the idea is that over time, we've got this kind of 2-weekly retraining, and Otto is getting a better and better understanding of what your client's kind of patterns are. He's reconciling more and more stuff, and he's leaving the things that shouldn't be reconciled or that are too complicated for him to understand for a human to review and kind of use their skills and experience really to deal with those more complex issues. So there's a couple of go on, Simon.
That's all right. You might now be going on to this, but I've got 2 questions from Carly and Suzanne, and I know everybody will be asking this question, Stuart. So Suzanne said, for the auto reckon zero, how does Otto deal with a scenario where it is highlighted in green, but there's more than one option?
Yep.
And then Carly's asked, what if there are matches that aren't correct, i.e. sometimes zero picks up matches which aren't right? And I know you're probably going to cover that. Just
Good timing. Good timing.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, absolutely. So I'll go through kind of the couple of cases of when they are right, because they're the examples I have, but I will also talk about the case when they're not. So if there's only one match, and yeah, as probably people are aware, zero just shows these if the amounts on each side match. So zero doesn't kind of perform any other checks, as far as I'm aware, to kind of only show you things that are likely to be good matches. As far as I understand, it's literally as long as the amounts on both sides are the same, then that's good enough, and you go and work out what you should do or not. So the way it works is that Otto will see these, what's on the bank statement here, and this potential sales invoice. He's looking for those patterns that he's found in the training data, decides if it's a match or not a match, decides how confident he is, or calculates, I suppose, how confident he is. And by default, as long as he's 90% confident that it is a match, that would be enough to reconcile that transaction. So there are cases where he wouldn't be confident enough, and that could either be because he kind of hasn't picked up the pattern for a particular combination, or that, it's just actually not a match. So in those cases, the idea would be, or the kind of the way that we've designed Otto, is that he would skip those. We have a portal, which I'll talk about in a second, where you can monitor what Otto's been doing. So in the ideal case, he would come in here, notice that the 2 items didn't match the patterns that he's already seen, and he will not think it should be reconciled, and he will then record that so that he can review it. It's kind of the key part there. So yeah, if there are multiple possible matches, it's a similar sort of process. Otto is comparing what's on the bank statement to each of those individual bills or invoices, deciding if it's a match or not, deciding how confident he is. He picks the one that's most likely to be a match out of all the ones that's available, and as long as that one is at least 90% likely to be a match, then he would reconcile it. So the key thing on this part is that Otto will not necessarily be picking like the oldest match or anything like that. The idea is that he's trying to use the patterns he's found before. So it could be something like, a reference matches, or maybe it's like the pay information is the best indicator of this thing, or it could be that actually normally it takes a certain amount of time between when the bill is issued and when it's paid. So he's trying to use whatever is the most relevant thing in here. And again, if none of the potential matches in here meet his criteria for how confident he needs to be that it's a match, then he skips it, and you will be able to review that and either say, yes, it should have been reconciled, or actually, he was correct, that should have been skipped. The right document hasn't been published yet. Okay, so there are a few things we don't do, and I guess the key thing for us is that caution is kind of key with this whole tool, because it's all well and good saving time, but those time savings can easily be eaten up if you've got to go and fix things. So our preference would be that we don't reconcile things if we're not sure, because it's easier for somebody to review that it hasn't been reconciled and decide that it should be, than it is to notice that something has been reconciled incorrectly, undo that incorrect reconciliation, and then reconcile it against the correct thing. So because of that, there are a few cases that we don't support because they tend to require context about your client and kind of the way that they buy and sell things that Otto doesn't have. And there's just too much risk of kind of incorrect decisions. So one of them is that if there's any part payments, Otto won't go in and split those. So think of things like maybe loans or insurance premiums, where maybe you kind of, you know the total that's going to be due for the year, and maybe you're kind of chipping off each month as the payments go out against that amount. Also, in a similar kind of vein, Otto won't reconcile batch payments where you have to go and tick kind of all the invoices or all the bills that were part of that, because again, he doesn't know which ones are going to be the correct items to do. So it makes sense, maybe you've got a supplier statement or your staff just kind of know how that particular client works. It makes sense to take advantage of that knowledge and not try and get Otto to do it. Third one is that we don't support anything where the bill and the statement transaction are in different currencies. So we are looking to address this in future, but again, it's that thing of, well, we need to be confident what the conversion rate was on that particular day for that particular bank to make sure that we're reconciling the right thing. So we need to make sure that we've got enough information to not make mistakes. And then the final thing is, if the payment was taken before the issue date, we're just like a human to kind of make sure that was okay. So I think talking about, sorry Simon, just kind of jumping in, but I saw Max's question there about.
That's all right. Yeah, I've got a couple more as well. Yeah, okay. Go on then. So
about these initial sanity checks. Is there a way to produce a report or check what Otto is reconciled? So there absolutely, there's two bits to this, I think. So one is, yes, I think hopefully, I'll talk about this in a second. Anyway, yes, there is. And also the other thing that we would recommend is when Otto first gets access to a client, we would recommend that you don't have him actually going and making those green match reconciliations. We have a mode where you can see what Otto would do. You get the full report, then you can satisfy yourself that he's picked up the patterns and he's not going to be making mistakes before you let him go wild, because we don't want him to go and reconcile a load of stuff incorrectly. I'll let you talk now, Simon, as you're the host.
Yeah, no. So in answer to Max's question, there is a feedback system or a dashboard basically that allows you to see what it has and hasn't done. I've got when you're talking about it just is messing with my head. Just like it as far as I'm concerned.
We're trying to personify it here.
That's right. I get that. And then I just want to go back to so that's answered Max's question. I'll come to Carly's in a minute, because Carly's question has come up a number of times in the questionnaires as well. But just going back to that old invoice, because again, this is a conversation I have with lots of people about the zero bank rules process, where it just takes the payment or the receipt and allocates it against the most recent one, and therefore leaves the old one outstanding. So I'm gonna sound as though I'm critical. I don't think I am going to be by the end of it, but he does that. That's his, unless there's a reference that's been done or he's been taught previously. They take 3 months to pay. So Otto is more likely to get it right than what Xero is, because Xero just normally takes the last one and away it goes.
And that's the idea, yes. The idea is that we are using kind of those patterns. So I think there's a few different cases. There's ones where maybe people pay late. That's obviously a difficult one because that's not very consistent. But there are other ones, maybe you sell, your clients sell a product. And so there's lots of people buying that product, or yourself, you probably sell lots of monthly services to your clients that have the same amount, and you probably have lots of clients potentially that pay the same amount each month because they get the same services at the same price. And so the idea is, yes, Otto is looking to see, okay, well, if the references match, that's a good indicator, but maybe not the be all end all, because the client might have used the same reference from day one and never updated it in their standing order, or there's a million different things that could happen that mean you can't just rely on one piece of information. And so he's looking at the historical record and trying to work out what are the most relevant things to pick the correct item, even if there are multiples.
But the most fundamental part of that Stuart, is that he's more likely to get that right. So I've got
Yes.
one, for example, at the moment where I've got 2 invoices that go out. One's paid by Stripe and one's paid on 𝗙𝗏𝗀𝗲𝗏. And every month the Stripe payment comes in against one of the invoices before the 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏 amount comes in. And every month I go in and it tries to reconcile the Stripe payment against the one that's going to be paid on 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏. Now, the first month that happened, I went in blind and just went, okay. And then somebody's emailing me saying that you've not collected the direct debit this month. And I'm saying, well, that's not. So and I had to go and undo it because I'd told it that the Stripe had paid the wrong invoice. So WithOtto is more likely to get that right than what Simon is, basically.
Quite possibly, yeah. And so we do find similar things like that where there are patterns we don't notice that Otto has picked up. However, it is not infallible. It does make mistakes. And so, yeah, there were, I guess, in the same way, there's bits that the bot can pick up that we wouldn't notice because they're too obscure. There are also probably things that a human would find very straightforward that might trip up a bot. But yes, overall, I would say Otto is probably going to be able to better work out some of those things than a human would be.
Especially one that's impatient and just okay.
And I guess that's it.
That's what Simon does. So again, I'll pick up on Carly's question, and I've got another vote in the Q&As for the naming convention as well by Paul.
Okay,
so
we'll check if it's in the docs. If it isn't, then we'll have that.
Two of us would like that.
Okay.
But I'll talk on Carly's question, and it's one that's come up for John and Martine as well, about the cost effectiveness of Otto. So Carly said, I can see how this would be useful for very high volume of transactions with bank rules, etc. But realistic, how much time is that saving for normal clients? How much have you got any statistics around that?
So we specifically haven't, and because we don't want to oversell it. So yeah, we saw some stuff where it's like, it's some bots are like, we're 10 times faster, 3 times more accurate. We can't say with any certainty because there's so much variation between practices and clients. We cannot say that. What we can say is definitely Otto is not necessarily going to save time for every single practice and every single client. We have a variety of practices. Some are sole practitioners with quite a small number of clients and they're doing quite a small number of reconciliations. We also have quite large practices who are doing, say, a few, like low thousands of reconciliations a month. So I think it really depends on the practice and kind of what your options are. So like Emma mentioned before, if the option is where you introduce some automation or you get a member of staff, then that's one cost consideration. If you've got a team, then if you can get your team to do some other work that you can build for, then that's one decision. If you've got a team that you can't get to do anything else and they're just going to sit there twiddling their thumbs while a bot is doing stuff, then that obviously doesn't make sense. So we don't have that, and we're very honest, I think, that this isn't necessarily going to be something good for every practice that you're going to want to stick with. And that's really the whole point of having this unlimited trial for a month. We would love you to try it with as many clients as you want, see if it helped, like how much time is saved, see how much it would cost based on those things, and make your own decision, really. Because I think that's true of every tool that you use. You've got to make sure it's saving you time and money for each client.
Yeah, you got to do your own cost benefit analysis on your specific client,
and it's very different. And so, yeah, some people actually, so strangely, I would say probably we find there's maybe more reticence from particularly high volume clients because there's maybe more value in trying to streamline that. Whereas if you've got, say, 20 very low volume clients, just the effort of going into 20 zero accounts to check maybe only half a dozen of them have even got anything to reconcile, that's a waste of time. But if you know you go into a client and they're always going to have hundreds of things to reconcile, well, that's probably a good use of somebody's time. So there's lots of factors. We'd love you to make your own decision your own mind
I
on
think
that.
Personally, having had conversations with other accountants in the team, people underestimate the amount of time it takes to log in, click 100%. On the dashboard, click on the thing, go in and see whether it's like it's only 3 or 4 clicks, but how long? And then it's the breaking concentration of having to do it. And from my perspective, there's nothing more wonderful than going in and there not being anything to reconcile at all. It's like brilliant. Away and we can go.
And I think you're right. I think somebody's like, well, I can just sit there and I can click. I can reconcile a bank rule in like less than 1 second. But yeah, you're right. They haven't thought of like, well, I've got to log into Xero. I've got to find the right client, find the bank account, navigate through until I found a transaction that actually can even be reconciled. So yeah, there's a lot of, I think, underestimating how much time status quo takes. And that's why I think you have to see it to work out the reality, I guess, isn't it?
See it to believe it. So, and I know that you're going to come on to this, but in the the reason why I'm coming to it is Paul's asked the question in the Q&A box, and I know David and Alex did as well in the pre-questionnaires, is around what Xero are currently doing. So do you want to cover that now, Stuart, or do you want to come back to that?
No, that's fine. So yeah, I guess we're obviously pretty interested in what Xero is getting up to in this area. It was a bit of a surprise because I think Xero have kind of neglected bank rec to kind of traditionally and gone for the more exciting stuff. So yeah, I don't know what anyone else has seen. Personally, what I've seen, there hasn't been much information about what that's going to be. I think, like, transparently, I think Xero are obviously in a much better place than us to kind of offer a very good bank rec solution because they have access to more data than we can get access to. Like, they own everything in there, and it's easier for them to integrate stuff. So for us, I guess it's a wait and see what it is. It could be a bit like HubDoc versus Dext and everything else, where their solution isn't actually very good, and so there's kind of use cases where you might want something that's got better features, or they might come and they might smash it and it might do everything you wanted it to do, and we don't need WithOtto anymore, and that's fine for everybody else.
Yeah, I always find, and this is perhaps me being thingy, but very often they tell you something that's coming before it's actually ready to come, and then it's ages before it comes. But anyway, that's
and I suppose the thing is, it's like kind of on the plus side, there's no ongoing commitment with WithOtto. So if you think you're going to get some benefit from some bank rec, you pay monthly, and if Xero comes out with the best thing since sliced bread for bank rec, then you just don't pay us anymore, and you can go and get the Xero thing, I guess.
Yeah. Brilliant, thank you. I've got a couple more questions that have come in, if I may, before I let you carry on, Stuart. So Emma's said, so would you recommend just logging in monthly to review everything is posted correctly?
Okay, well, let me just go through and I'll talk about that as I'm going through this. So kind of a key thing is about monitoring what Otto has done as well. So there is a dashboard. There's more to it than this, but I'm going to or a reporter rather. Part of this is there's a dashboard where you can see what Otto has done most recently for each client, and you can see how many bank rules have been reconciled, and you can also see for those green matches, which we call smart match, what Otto has done. So this kind of going back to some of the stuff that we had before, or people asked before. So and you possibly can't even see it. I don't know how small it is, but there you go. Here is some of our examples, although they don't look very consistent as I look at them now. Anyway, that's kind of a bit of a teaser of our bank rule naming convention that doesn't look very consistent. So overall, the idea is that you come in here as often as you want, and if you're only getting Otto to reconcile bank rules, which is an option, then you possibly don't really need to come in at all because you set up the bank rules and he's just following what you're doing. If Otto is reconciling those green matches, then come in as often as makes sense. So for us, we tend to do fortnightly bookkeeping for clients. So part of our process for that is that the bookkeeper will come in, review what Otto has done, obviously then pick up any issues that need resolving, also provide feedback to help Otto be more accurate in future. That would be our process. So we're not trying to enforce a process, we're trying to give you the tools so you can do whatever you need. So if you do monthly bookkeeping, and I guess you're fine with the possibility that something will have been reconciled that might need addressing, then coming in monthly is fine. There's no specific kind of there's no formula that you need to follow. We want you to be able to fit this into your process. I think what I'm kind of got in the back of my mind is, well, if you've got a client who's going to be very unhappy if they notice that something has been reconciled incorrectly, even though you would have noticed it when you did your review, then maybe you need to either not reconcile those using Otto, or you might need to check that one more often. So I guess to kind of reiterate, the bank rules, I would say, is completely safe to kind of not review regularly. We, as a practice, would like to review those green matches more often because there's obviously that risk that something wasn't reconciled correctly because Otto didn't pick up the patterns, or just it's helpful to come in and kind of get him to reconcile more stuff that he hasn't done. Does that answer the question more or less, Simon? I feel like I've waffled. But,
it does. From my perspective, the bit about what the client wants is, I suppose, is the really important bit. So we've got customers, as everybody has, where they They don't even look at they don't even look at the books, and we do an end of month review. And if an invoice has been allocated incorrectly, so there's an old supplier or blah blah blah, it can be corrected, and nobody knows. Then we have other clients that are looking at the debtors every 2 or 3 days in order to chase invoices, and if they end up chasing the wrong invoice, then they look like plonkers, and therefore we get kicked. So for us, it very much depends on what amount of work we are doing. So,
and I think it goes back to that kind of thing, is like, well, how much of an issue is a potential mistake? And like you say, if your client is using it to chase up debts and there's a mistake, well, that's a big deal, and it would be better off having slightly out of date data compared to chasing up the wrong client. And so I think that's that kind of judgment you need to make about where does automation with the potential risk in it make the most sense, I think, is the kind of the key takeaway from that.
Thank you. And then I've got another question. And again, this is what I love about the community, because this question never even entered my head. It's from somebody that's stopped anonymous, but is there any cross-learning between clients or practices? So how is the security handled with the learning element?
So there's a couple of elements to this. So one is that each practice has their own Otto user that is unique to them. So there is no access to other practices clients. The second part is that each client is trained only on their data. So there is no other information that is taken. So there's not across practices, not across the whole Otto client base. So the kind of approach we've taken is that each client has their own unique way of doing stuff, their own unique suppliers, their own unique clients. And so it makes sense to focus on how things are done for them and try and follow that, not try and follow an average of every practice that Otto has access to. So everything is segregated so that there is no kind of overlapping of any data.
Brilliant. So it's one bot or one Otto per client, basically, and there's
one
no
Otto per practice,
across
and then Otto is trained on each client individually. So when he's looking at client A, he's using only client A's historical data and the feedback that you've given. Yeah.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. And then Paul's asked, can you choose how often Otto works on a particular client?
Not on a particular client. So the way Otto works is that he logs in every day, even at weekends. We don't give him time off. So the only thing you can do is you can pick the hour of the day that Otto runs during to try and, fit in with whatever your normal kind of work schedule is. So yeah, it's obviously common for Otto to work before the start of the day and after the end of the day when either there's stuff for him to reconcile or stuff's been published. So not for individual clients. Otto will reconcile every day, but you can pick the hour of the day that he will reconcile.
Excellent. Thank you. So I'm going to let you
I'll be quick.
That's all right.
So when it comes to feedback and training, I kind of mentioned this a little bit. Those buttons, the red and the green buttons, are how you can tell Otto whether something should have been reconciled or not reconciled. So this is something that we would go through in a bit more detail on the call, but the crux is that if Otto has reconciled something incorrectly, if you tell him that he has reconciled that incorrectly, you need to go and fix it in Xero. However, you don't get charged for that. And also, when Otto is next retrained, that information will be used to increase the accuracy of his predictions. On the flip side, if Otto hasn't reconciled something that should be reconciled, if you tell him that it should have been reconciled, the next time he logs into that client, he will see that he should have reconciled it, and he will reconcile that. And again, that forms part of the next training process so that it will become more accurate. So you don't get charged, to kind of reiterate, you don't get charged if he's reconciled something incorrectly, and you let us know by pushing the button. If he hasn't reconciled something, but he should, and you tell us, then he will reconcile it, but you don't get charged for that. So the upshot is, when it comes to these green matches, the smart match, you are only getting charged if Otto reconciled it correctly off his own back. That's kind of the key thing. And then overall, the more feedback that you can give him pressing those buttons, the more accurate he's going to be over time. So it's kind of a bit of an initial investment to get more time savings in future. So I think, billing, pretty important. So we've got lots of different price tiers. It works similar to things like auto entry, where you're buying credits, and the higher the plan, the more credits you get and the cheaper each of those credits are. However, thinking back to what people asked before, we have lots of sole practitioners who are on a £25 a month plan. So it isn't just for big practices. It's kind of, very dependent on your clients and so on. The credits are shared across all clients, and they will roll over as long as you have a subscription. So if you don't use them all in a month, you haven't lost them. Bank rule reconciliations cost 1 credit, so that's another reason that they're kind of very valuable, I guess. They're relatively cheap for the time you save. Smart match are 4 credits, so those are those green matches. Guided match is that time where Otto hasn't reconciled it, but you tell him to. As I mentioned, no credits are consumed for those. You can choose between uncapped and fixed cost each month. So uncapped means that if Otto uses up all of his credits, he will continue to reconcile, and you just get billed the extra credits at the normal price at the end of the month. Alternatively, a fair few practices prefer to stop Otto once he's run out of credits, and then they will just wait until the next billing period where the credits get topped up. All the features are included. Unlimited portal users, so you don't get charged per user, so you can invite your whole practice, or even clients if you wanted them to have access just to their own information about their own companies. And also, if you give Otto access to your own practice account, then any reconciliations that happen in there are completely free. So, okay, yeah, here we go. So I kind of mentioned a bit before. So each practice has their own Otto user. The trial lasts for a full month. It's a completely unlimited trial. Literally, we would love you to get Otto to work with as many of your clients as you're happy to. There's no limits on the number of reconciliations. So the most we've had in a day is about 8,000 or so. Across a full trial, 20-odd thousand or so. So yeah, we really do want you to be able to see exactly what Otto can do in your practice and how much it's going to cost. There's a detailed breakdown where you can see kind of the usage per client. But also, and I didn't mention this before, so this bit on the right-hand side, so for any billing period, you can download an Excel spreadsheet, because we know people have Excel spreadsheets, where, as well as the detailed breakdown, you can also see a pre-calculated thing which shows you which is the best plan based on your current usage. So yeah, we're keen that you be on the best plan. We're not trying to rip you off. We want you to be able to understand your costs and your cost per client so that you can make informed decisions as we would want to as a practice. And then finally, there's this process of training Otto initially on this historical data. Depending on the number of clients you've got and their volumes, that can sometimes take a few days. However, the whole point is this is all done by us, and we make sure that that's done before your trial starts. And finally, so we've got a special offer. So if you use this QR code, and I think Mark's going to share one as well, if you book a call on there and you decide after your trial that you would like to carry on with Otto, then you will get 50% off for your first 3 months. And yeah, there's also the link to the Getting Started with Bank Rules guide on there. May or may not have the information about our naming convention.
It doesn't, so I guess we can have that.
We'll upload a new version that does have that once we've had a coffee and a chill out. So I did kind of some of the questions that had been asked before the webinar I put on here. I think we've asked some of them. I think maybe what do you want to talk about, Simon? I know.
Yeah, no, I've got a color coded system over here, so I've got some red ones, awesome, which I think you've nailed. I've got some green ones, which we'll get to if we've got chance, and I've got some orange ones that I'd want to look at. Can I just go back to the spreadsheet, Stuart, just so I can vocalize what I think that spreadsheet's showing with regards to the cost. So, basically, in that calculator, there's 431 normal reconciliations.
Yep.
And then there's 74 smart ones where it's worked out what invoice and whatnot to allocate it to. So that 74 then is quadrupled 4 times for the 4 credits.
You're just showing off your math skills.
Well, I'm not. I'm making sure I'm not stupid, Stuart, and I'm not going to do 4 times 74 neither. It's 292, is it? Something like that. No, it can't be because it don't work. Anyway, so that's 727. So what you'd pay in that month is Plan C. Which
it's
is
not that you'll pay that. So you would pay whatever you have based on whatever plan you're on. So yeah, the key thing here is this is about helping you make sure that you're on the correct plan. Okay. So yeah, you made us sound awful now, Simon. Then we rip you off. If you pick plan A, then you would, for this particular kind of month, you would pay £181.75.
Excellent.
So the key thing is about, obviously, I guess there's a few things. Maybe you've got more clients, maybe your clients are getting busier as their business is growing. And it's easy, I think, to miss that those things are happening. And we want it to be easy for you to see how your usage is changing each month so that you can make sure that you're on the correct plan. So yeah, I guess the thing would be, say I was on plan A on this month, I'm like, okay, well, I paid £181.75, but it would make sense if I think that my usage is going to stay approximately like this, that I should upgrade to plan C because so it's all about, plan changes only take effect from the next month.
Yeah.
So it's about trying to monitor your usage. If that's something if you've got tons of money, then maybe you don't care. But the idea is to help you monitor your usage so that you can make sure you're kind of on the correct plan, really.
Brilliant. So basically, any credits that you've bought that you've not used get rolled over.
Exactly.
So there's no loss in that. So
no.
So in order to sort of make sure it's as effective as possible for you, you want to have a guess at how many reconciliations you're going to do over the course of perhaps 2 or 3 months. Pick that plan, and then some months you'll roll them over, and some months you'll use over what you've rolled over.
And that would be the ideal. And that's the key thing of the trial, is that you get to see, well, for this month, what was my usage? And if that's representative of what you think is going to be, then that's the plan to be. But yeah, if it's like, oh, actually, it's going to increase because I've just onboarded a new client, or it's going to decrease because actually some of these clients aren't going to save me any time and I don't want to pay for those, you adjust it based on that. So to talk about Emma's thing, I haven't shown the whole plan. There's lots of different plans, but the plan is literally the monthly cost and the number of credits you get. So the way it works is that credits are a bit more expensive at the lower tiers, like is common with most of these things. The higher the plan you buy, the cheaper each credit is. So it's all on the website. But yeah, it's just a big list. I didn't want to bore you too much.
Get started with. Thank you. And Mark's popped the URL in the chat box.
Perfect.
So just click that. What happens when they click that, Stuart?
So that goes to a page that has a specific onboarding booking page, or booking form rather, for this webinar. That means that we'll know that you came from here, so that when your trial ends, we can send you the discount code if you do want to sign up. And it also has a link to the bank rules guide that we need to update, so that it's got our patent pending naming convention in it. So you'd have to come back this afternoon for that one.
Yeah. So and Jerry's asked, if we implement WithOtto at a later date, well, if we implement it now, is there assistance with building the system? So just talk me through that briefly, because I think there were people on thinking, oh God, there's a lot of work involved with that, and how am I going to get time to do it?
So I guess there's two sides to this. So there's like, well, if you want to do the automation pyramid, then we can kind of offer general advice based on what products you're using. We aren't going to be able to kind of sit with you and make supplier rules and stuff like that, but we can help you with that. When it comes to the actual Otto part of things, kind of alluded to it before. The only bit that needs to be done is this pre-training on those 12 months of historical reconciliations. We manage that. There's nothing for you to do. So on the start of your trial, which we both agree the date on, Otto will be ready and raring to go. He will reconcile on day one any bank rules that can be reconciled. And then those green matches that he's seen, he will record what he would do so that you can monitor to see that you're happy with what he's doing before you kind of let him off and kind of reconcile those things.
Excellent, thank you. And I've got a couple more questions. Emma's, what does the plan mean? I think we just talked about that, Emma. If there's another question on that, then let me know. So two more. Ian has said, I need to understand how the VAT compliance is ensured through this automation, as I've seen others that seem to overlook this. Am I right in saying, Stuart, in my accountant's language, that it won't just post something and take VAT on it without it being go on.
Go on, Emma. Go on.
So because Otto is just reconciling either bank rules, and you will have dealt with the VAT side of things in that bank rule, or it's doing those smart matches. And if it's doing those smart matches, then they are bills and invoices that have already been processed. So that might be through supplier rules, it might be through auto publish, it might be through you actually sitting through and adding the different VAT treatment to that. And so Otto itself isn't deciding or applying any VAT treatment whatsoever. So that whole VAT side of things is dealt with either through the rule or through the invoice or bill originally. Whereas Otto is purely doing kind of like the reconciliation side rather than determining things like nominal codes or VAT treatment.
So it's not, and this is me bringing it up in a hypothetical conversation, but it's not going to look at payment and go, oh, that's British Telecom. There's no invoice for that. Last time there was an invoice and they claimed VAT on it. So let's claim VAT on it this time.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Exactly
It's
that.
not doing that yet.
No, so that's a sort of a team member type problem.
Yeah.
We dodge all of that because it's a nightmare. We don't want to get involved in it.
That's right. Well, that's what it's got that on it. I know it's got that on it. Let's just claim it type scenario. Or the client told me to claim it. Excellent. And then the last one, Jane said, what's the best transactions to start with? Is there a best transactions to start with?
Maybe Emma and I think it's probably around looking for any bank rules that are going to make sense. And I guess if I was to pick clients that's going to work best with, it is ones where maybe they're taking online payments with Stripe or some other payment gateway, because they're ones that we find save a lot of time. But I think it's very client dependent. It's bank rules are a good start, and I think it's thinking about which clients and which types of transactions have high volumes. What do you reckon, Emma?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything to add to that. Yeah, I think bank rules definitely. And yeah, I think once you start with one, and once you start with one client, you'll then start to be able to recognize where it's going to be useful for others. Because like we have some clients who don't sell online, and so I thought, oh, bank rules probably aren't going to be that useful for them, but actually they are going out and paying for parking at the same place every few weeks, and so even something like that that can use a bank rule. So yeah, I think bank rules definitely are the best place to start, because you're going to be able to spot those more easily, I think.
Brilliant. Excellent. And I've answered all the questions, and we're just ticked by 10:30. So we've had an hour. I'm going to say thank you very much to everybody that's come along, and especially a big thank you to everybody that's asked the questions. Some really interesting ones in there that I hadn't thought about. And as I said, that's the wonders of this community. And we're going to leave the QR code on the screen, and Mark's left it in the chat box. So you can, you're very welcome, Emma. So you can click the link and get that appointment booked to have a conversation with Emma and Stuart, and start using WithOtto. So that's it for us for now, and I will say goodbye, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for watching this video with Emma and Stuart from WithOtto, which was all about increasing and improving your bank reconciliations. If you've liked the video, please hit the thumbs up. If you'd like to be notified about the next video we upload, please hit the subscribe button. And if you've got any comments or questions about the video, please post them below and we will gladly answer them.